Om Tat Sat. Welcome to Gyan Bhakti channel from Swami Nikhilananda. My humble prostrations to the all-pervading Brahman, to my worshipful Guruji, Swami Jyotirmayanandaji Maharaj, to Ram Parivar and all sages and saints, and to each of you divine soul watching today's satsang. As you know, we are currently studying the holy scripture Mysticism of Ramayana. Commentaries by my worshipful Guruji, Swami Jyotirmayanandaji Maharaj, narrated by myself, Swami Nikhilananda. So let's get started for today's satsang. We were discussing the two birds on the tree. So when Rama is banished into the forest, just as he is about to be coronated king, he accepts the predicament with a cheerful mind that is ever in balance. Think about that for a minute. From being crowned a king, all of a sudden you're told to go to the forest, not for a few days, but for 14 years. So this is why Ramayana is such a popular epic all over the world, because of the diverse types of situations that the soul has to go through. And slowly we will understand the deeper meanings of each of the incidents that occur in this holy scripture. In the drama that unfolds in the scripture, Rama is playing the part of a wise and devoted son. But on a mystical level, Rama symbolizes Brahman, the immutable self, ever untouched by the world of relativity. In his own special way, Tulsidas Ji awakens this realization in the aspirant when he invites him to pray. May that cheerful face of Rama, which did not lose its splendor when he was banished to the forest, nor become more radiant when he was about to be coronated king, may that lotus face of Rama bring tender delight and sweet auspiciousness in our lives from day to day. The story of every divine incarnation may be interpreted in two ways, historically and mystically. Through the passage of time, historical facts are blended with numerous legends, and it becomes a complex task for a historian to determine what is historical data and what is not. It is a present trend to rule out the historical validity of great personages and incarnations like Sri Rama and explain their existence and exploits in terms of symbols and esoteric interpretations only. The inability to see the expressions of divine power, beauty, and joy of Rama in our age should not create in us the notion that such great personalities never existed. In this Kali Yuga, people doubt everything. They doubt the existence of all these things, and there is all this tension between people, which is not the goal of these scriptures. The task before a spiritual aspirant, however, is not to be a historical detective. We will get nothing out of that research, but rather to comprehend the esoteric or mystical meaning of great scriptures like the Ramayana and apply them in our life for attaining self-realization. So the more important aspect of these scriptures, whether it is Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita, Ramayana, the depth is to understand what the scriptures are trying to convey for our evolution. In the spiritual field, it is not important to determine whether Rama was a prince born in a certain year in a certain location. Rather, it is the mysticism that is presented through the Ramayana that should be impressed deeply upon our mind and transform our personality. That is the real essence of Ramayana. Tulsidas Ji referred to this Ramayana as Ramacharitmanas, a Himalayan lake of Lord Rama's exploits. Himalayan lake because Mansarovar lake is, they say, it's so pure that the water is so crystal clear that you can see everything in it. in its perfect glory. According to the author, the stories of Lord Rama are like a charming lake full of lotuses and swans. When an aspirant enters to the lake, he comes out of the lake the same way. He will from a regular, but in the Mansarovar lake, a person is totally transformed. He does not come out the same. He is a changed person. That is the legend that says the beauty of Mansarovar, because that lake is so holy, so pure, and so radically transforming that it gives us a totally new dimension to our spiritual personality. So if he was a crow, he emerges out as a swan. That is the kind of saying that goes if one takes a bath in that lake. This spiritual transformation, which results from mystic understanding, is the only true goal of all spiritual study. So this point has to be well understood, that we don't need to get entangled in history and historical facts and arguing why this happened or why that happened, but to try to pick the nuggets of gems that have been placed in the scripture for our evolution. That is the important point. Rama's story is a mystical portrayal of how the soul within us struggles to attain liberation. Liberation is forever terminating the cycles of birth and death. Otherwise, as you know, reincarnation is based on our karma, and the karma, the cycle continues on and on till we attain mukti or liberation. So having entered into the forest of the world process, the emergent soul, or the soul that is moving towards liberation, that is Rama in this case, practices various spiritual disciplines, integrates the energy operating through the mind and senses. The mind and senses are represented by the monkeys and bears. And then he befriends Sattva. Sattva is purity, in this case Vibhishana, and destroys ignorance. Ignorance is Ravana. Thus the soul is reunited with the intuitive intellect. Intellect is Sita. So this is the general mysticism of the Ramayana. We are covering this very broadly, and then soon we will get into each specific instance in more detail, and we will explain the mystical meaning of those things as well. So Sita, which bestows upon the soul the knowledge of its essential nature and allows it to become free of the bondage of the world process. So intuitive intellect is required to free the soul and to attain mukti or liberation. Expressed in the terminology of the Upanishads, the real I in every individual is not the body, mind, or intellect. It is the true self. It is the soul, and that is the essence that we should remember in this mystical meaning of the Ramayana. So we will conclude the satsanga for today and continue this pleasurable holy journey on the path of mysticism of Ramayana, and I will see you in tomorrow's satsang. This is Swami Nikhilanand. Om Tat Sat.